Thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited to be here with you for Simon Says Stamps Believe in the Season blog hop. This blog hop is showcasing Simon's newest release that just came out yesterday, October 20th. There are a lot of really great products included in this month's release, and I'm going to be sharing a card that features a few of those products. This card is going to be featuring a lot of really fun Copic coloring, and I'll show you how easy it is to create these realistic looking poinsettias with your Copic markers, some very simple shading, and just a few colors really. First, let's talk about the stamp set. This stamp set is the poinsettia stamp set. There are some really beautiful poinsettias included in this set, both an outline and a solid image, so if you're interested in doing stamping, you can go ahead and do that, or if you're interested in coloring like I am, I'm going to be using the outline. So I'm going to take the outline of the poinsettia and I'm going to mount this onto my clear block, and I'm going to go ahead and ink this up with the new Merlot ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is a new ink color, and I really love the beautiful red tone of this ink. It's very, very beautiful and much different than the schoolhouse red and lipstick red colors that they had previously. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down onto some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'll go ahead and ink this up once again to stamp down a second poinsettia. Now, if you have been over to my blog lately, you might notice that this card is very similar to a card I shared yesterday. I was really pleased with how that card turned out, and I wanted to share another variation to that technique that I used to create the cluster of poinsettias that were popped up off the card. On that card, I had used different products from the Simon Says Stamp Believe in the Season release, and in this version, I changed it up a little bit and used a few different products. Now right here, you're seeing me create a mask. And this is going to be masking off the poinsettias so that we can go ahead and layer some leaves behind it. So I'm taking the new Evergreen ink. This is also from Simon's new release. I love the beautiful deep red color of it. And I'm pairing it up with the Willow ink, which is an older Simon ink color, but one of my absolute favorites. I'm going to go ahead and ink up some of the other leaves and go ahead and stamp these around the poinsettias to create a little bit of a cluster. After I got all my stamping done, it's time to go ahead and start working on my Copic coloring. Now, Copic coloring can sometimes be intimidating and seem like it's really hard to add some really amazing shading to your Copic colored images. I'm going to show you here how quickly and easily I was able to create some really gorgeous shading on these images. So I started off by creating a base coat on top of each poinsettia. That's going to give me the base coat that I need to be able to start building up the shading on this image. I have all the Copic colors that I'm using listed on the side of the screen in case you're interested. I'm next going to let that dry because reds are a very saturating color, and Copics in general are very saturating to the paper. So if you get too heavy-handed with the Copics all at once, you're going to have your images start to bleed a little bit. No, we don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and let those layers dry. And I'm going to move on to adding base coats to my leaves. I'm adding some variation to the coloring by using both light greens and dark greens, greens that I felt matched the colors of the ink that I had chosen. I chose colored inks over black outlined images because I felt that this would help me get a little bit of a no-line coloring look. And I really love the gorgeous effect of no-line coloring because it makes it look like a realistic image. So that's the reason why I chose the colored ink, but if you'd rather have a black outline, definitely feel free to go ahead and do that. So next I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some shading. I'm using my darkest color first, and then I'm going to bring in my mid-tone, and I'm going to start feathering out towards the tip of the petal of this poinsettia. I'm going to do this for each individual petal because that's going to allow me to get more realistic shading. If you tried to color this entire poinsettia all at once and do just some really loose shading, you're going to get an interesting effect, and I think it would work for certain card designs, but if you're looking for something more realistic like I am, you definitely want to work on each petal one at a time. So I'm going to continue adding shading in this manner until I get all of the petals colored in with these markers. As I'm coloring, you may notice I go over certain areas multiple times. This is just to make sure that I get the blending to be a little bit more smoother in transition. Going over certain areas multiple times may help you fix any areas that might not be as cleanly shaded. Once I have the poinsettias colored, I'm going to move on to adding in shading to the leaves. I'm using some fairly dark greens for the darkest shading of my leaves, and then I'm going to start feathering that out with the lighter colors. Now you'll also notice that I have some really good contrast going on here, and that's because I've chosen some really deep colors for the shading of my images. And I'm actually going to deepen up the contrast of the poinsettias a little bit more after I've let them have some time to dry. But the colors that I used for the darkest colors are what's allowing my images to have that really deep contrast, which helps them be more realistic. And also, don't feel like you have to have colors that are within a certain color group and family. I blended a G99 marker for my light green leaves as the darkest shading, and then I used some YG markers for the shading as the mid-tone and the lightest color. And you can see that the blending was perfect. It was really, really nice, and I love how it has such a deep contrast because it really makes these leaves come to life. So definitely don't feel limited by the color families of your markers. You can blend almost any Copic shade together as long as it's not going to be complete opposites. So say like red versus green, that would create brown. But let's say you were trying to blend a different shade of green with another shade of green, you could definitely do that. And also, if you find that you're getting an area of shading that's maybe not blending as smoothly as you want, try doing a tip-to-tip technique. The tip-to-tip technique is where you take a lighter marker and then take the other marker that you're going to be trying to blend it with and take the lighter marker and put that to the tip of the darker marker. And then you'll go ahead and blend with the lighter marker with that darker color that's on the tip, and that'll help blend the two colors together better. Hopefully that makes some sense. I didn't end up needing to do that for my card, so I don't have any footage to show you, but that is a technique that you could use to help try to do some better blending. So after I did all my coloring, I went ahead and fussy cut these images out. I want these to be one full cluster. You could use coordinating dies and cut all these images out one at a time, but I really wanted these to be masked off and have this layered effect, so I went ahead and did all my fussy cutting at the end. And I'm going around the entire image, not going to cut off the flowers where there's that little space in between the two clusters. I want that to be continuous. I want this to be one whole piece. So I'm going to cut this entire piece out, and then I'll go ahead and be able to pop this up onto my card later on. Before we get to that step, though, I want to show you another new product from Simon Says Stamp's new release. This is the Believe script die. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I believe this is Christina Werner's handwriting. In any case, it's absolutely beautiful, and I really love this die. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut this from some Simon Says Stamp Sunshine cardstock. This is the Glimmer cardstock, which is new to their product line. This came out during Stamptember, and I love the shimmery effect of it. I went ahead and die cut that Believe with my Big Shot machine, and now I'm going to die cut the outline using a piece of vellum. This vellum is also from Simon Says Stamp and is a newer product for Simon. I want these to be attached together, of course, so I'm going to use some liquid glue and apply this to the back side of my Believe script. This Believe die is very delicate, so I was very careful as I applied the liquid glue onto the back side of this die cut. But I went ahead and popped it up onto my vellum piece, and then I'll go ahead and apply a clear block on top just to make sure that it has a good amount of time to dry and bond to that vellum. While that's drying, I'm going to take another piece of vellum, and this vellum I actually tore the edges of because I want this to have a bit more of an organic look. So I'm taking some EK Success powder tool and I'm applying it to my vellum. And this is just going to cut down on any static cling. And then I'm going to go ahead and start inking up my background stamp, which is also a new product from Simon's new release. This is the Holiday Background Cling Stamp. I'm inking this up in Simon Says Stamp Clear Embossing Ink. I'm going to use my Misty Stamping tool to make sure I get a good impression. And then I'll go ahead and apply some white embossing powder from Ranger on top of my stamped image. Once I have the embossing powder applied down, I went ahead and heat set that, and then I want to add a little bit more detail to this panel. So I'm taking some Versamark ink and I'm burnishing this along the edges of my vellum panel. This is going to create some sticky edges to the edges of the paper, and it's going to allow me to apply embossing powder onto this paper to give it a more frosted look. I've really been loving using the Shimmer Pearl embossing powder from Tonic Studios. This is part of their Nouveau line, and it is so beautiful. It's super sparkly. This is a shimmery, clear embossing powder, and it has such a beautiful look to it. Especially when you heat emboss it on vellum, the result is really, really beautiful. So I just went ahead and applied this to the edges, and then I went ahead and heat set that. I want to add some detail to my card base. So to do this, I'm going to take the Sizzix Textures impression plate and the Sizzix Textures silicone rubber mat. These are going to allow me to emboss this stencil design into my cardstock card base. This cardstock is Ivory cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and the stencil is from Neat and Tangle. This is their Parquet stencil. I went ahead and ran this through my Big Shot machine with a cutting plate on top. This is the sandwich I like to use for my Big Shot machine when I do impressions into my cardstocks with stencils or dies. Also, I want to make note that I use the bottom tab on my platform for my Big Shot when I go ahead and run this through. Okay, so to put my card together, I want to take some ATG adhesive and apply it to the back side of my vellum. I'm focusing most of the tape to the middle of that vellum panel just to make sure it gets hidden by our little flowers here that we're going to be adding on top. The flowers are going to be popped up with some foam tape, so I'm just adding it to the back side. And then I'll go ahead and move those over to my card panel and pop those up right in the center area. Whoops, I dropped them. So after I've lined them up in the center, I'll go ahead and apply that Believe script right there in the middle. And then I'm also going to take some sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh and add these in some areas around the poinsettias. And I think this really adds a nice bit of shimmer and shine to the card. Sequins are something I always love to add to cards. To add a bit more shimmer, because of course a Christmas card isn't complete without a lot of sparkle, I'm taking some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and I'm applying it to the poinsettias. I only applied it to the poinsettias, but you could apply it to the leaves as well if you wanted to. I liked it on the poinsettias only, so that's why I'm focusing on the flowers. My last bit of embellishment is to add some Nouveau clear crystal drops to the center of my poinsettias. I'm just adding a little bit of dimension to the center of the flowers, just to add a bit more depth to the images. And I think these really add a nice bit of finishing touch to the card. So I hope this has been some inspiration for you on how you can use some of the fabulous new products from Simon Says Stamps' Believe in the Season release. I'm really excited about this release because it has so many fun products, stamps, dies, inks, and other fun things included in this. And I hope you'll go ahead over to my blog and check out not only this card in some close-up still pictures, but also I have 2 other cards that I have created using new products from the Simon Says Stamp Believe in the Season release. And I also posted yesterday some other card inspiration, including a video that you might want to check out. Speaking of that video, here is a link to the video that I created yesterday, so be sure to head on over there and check that out. I'll show you how I created this really cute and fun retro holiday scene. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as my blog. The links to all the products that I used are in the video description below, and I also have links to my blog and the Simon Says Stamp new release. Thanks so much for watching this video. I will see you again very soon. Bye!